Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
The first time I saw my wife cry in a doctor's office, she didn't wipe her face. She just stared straight ahead and let it happen. The OB said, "We can try another cycle," like we hadn't already tried 6. I kept my hand on her knee, still and steady, like it could anchor both of us. Quick note, before we start, please share in the comments. How's your day going and where are you joining from? Thanks. And let's continue. My name's Norman Patterson. I'm 58. I design buildings in Seattle, quiet, functional structures where stress loads carry clean and nobody shouts. I learned early that stillness gets you through more than noise ever will, especially after the worst night of my life. Tiffany and I spent 4 years chasing one line on a plastic test strip. Her job was research, data, real answers. But infertility doesn't play by charts. She'd come home with folders, treatment plans, and a face like it was wired to stay upright no matter how bad the odds got. Meanwhile, I kept my head in contracts and blueprints, buried in steel beams and zoning codes. It was how I contributed, kept the lights on, kept her insured, bought us time. I watched her give herself shots in the stomach, hum a little to distract herself, then go clean the dishes like it was just another Tuesday. She turned 28 when we finally got the call. Positive, confirmed. Her face didn't crack the way I thought it would. She just exhaled and whispered, "It's sticking this time." The pregnancy didn't go smooth. There were monitors, weekly checks, nurses who frowned when they thought we weren't looking. I stayed in the car sometimes just to scream into the steering wheel. Then I'd go back inside and carry her bag and smile at reception. Mia was born on a Thursday morning after 12 hours of labor and one scare with the cord. I didn't feel joy first, I felt fear so sharp it made my teeth hurt. Then I saw her hands, tiny and balled into fists, and something inside me tore open in a way I still can't describe. I held her, and every muscle in my body locked onto one thought. I will never let the world take this from me. Tiffany sang to her, this strange lullaby I'd never heard before, something about an angel at the window. Mia would reach up and touch Tiffany's face while she hummed, like she was tracing a path she meant to memorize. For her 3rd birthday, I designed a medallion. I sketched it in my office during a storm delay. An angel on one side, Mia P., and her birth date etched on the back. We had 2 made, identical, one for her, one in a box at home, just in case. By 4, Mia had a voice like a bell and questions that could break a grown man's brain. Why does concrete get hard? Why does the moon follow our car? I answered everyone. Didn't matter if I had to Google it later. I gave her answers. That fall, we traveled, just the 3 of us. Cheap hotels, public trains, worn luggage. Tiffany called it our makeup tour for the years we lost in waiting rooms. Romania wasn't on the plan. One of my clients mentioned Sibiu, old squares, music, warm bread smells. We booked it last minute. I remember that night clear as glass. Tiffany dressed Mia in a red cotton dress she'd bought from a street vendor in Budapest. Mia looked at herself in the mirror like she was suiting up for battle. I teased her, said, "That's a serious outfit." And she gave me this narrow little smile like, "It is." I should have gone out with them. Instead, I sat down with a laptop and a stack of invoices I swore I'd finish. "I'll hear all about it later," I said. Tiffany kissed my cheek. Mia waved like a queen from the door. That was the last time I saw her in that red dress. Tiffany came back without Mia. She burst into the hotel lobby just before 10, face soaked with sweat, hair sticking to her neck, arms shaking so bad the front desk girl tried to catch her elbows. I stood up before she said a word. I knew. Right there. I knew. She was right there, Tiffany said. She was right there. Her voice wasn't screaming. It was something worse. Flat. Controlled. The kind of voice you hear from someone walking through fire and trying not to scare the people behind them. They'd gone to that city festival in Sibiu. Music on every corner. Kids with little gold paper crowns. Men selling roasted sunflower seeds by the handful from plastic bags. I'd seen it from the window. Mia had waved to a woman juggling pins. I'd smiled and waved back. Then I sat down at the desk to deal with a contractor who was refusing to honor a clause about freight delay penalties. 34,000 euros. I can list every item line by line. I wish I couldn't. Tiffany took Mia near a stage where a local band was warming up. The crowd thickened, more than she expected. Parents lifted kids onto shoulders. Phones went up, elbows too. Then the band hit a big first chord, one of those bass-thumping stadium things that makes people surge forward like a wave. I tried to lift her, she said, but I couldn't get my arm under her in time. I told her, "We'll step back." She stopped there, like she couldn't say the rest. When the song ended and the crush let go, Mia was gone. Just gone. No red dress, no hand in hers, just a space where a child had been. Tiffany grabbed a security guy. She yelled, waved, asked people, pleaded in English and broken Romanian. Nobody had seen a thing. She ran, down the steps, around a fountain, into 2 alleys. People shrugged, said no, said didn't notice, and kept walking. One woman said she saw a red dress go down some steps near a bus station. We ran there. Nothing. A guard at the corner told Tiffany maybe Mia had walked back to the pension. "Smart girl," he said, like it was comfort. Tiffany ran the route in flats. No purse, no jacket. 20 minutes in 5, if you trust the desk clock. I think it was less. I had just shut my laptop when she burst in. I grabbed her shoulders and said, "Where is she?" And she shook her head like it was the first time she'd ever heard the question. We called the police. They came fast, took our statements, made a report, translated it, promised follow-up. That first night, we walked the entire route again with a flashlight and one of Mia's pictures printed on hotel paper. Posters went up the next morning, bright red and white with her photo, age, weight, hair. "Missing Copel Pierdut." They stapled them to trees, poles, benches, trash bins. Volunteers helped. Tourists took copies back to their hotels. By the end of day 2, we'd gotten 12 leads. All bad. An older woman was sure she saw Mia on a tram outside the old city. We found the tram. We found the child. She wore red but wasn't Mia. Her mother gave us a dirty look like we were trying to steal her. Every morning, Tiffany opened her eyes like she'd just surfaced from drowning. She didn't eat. I made her toast once, and she stared at it until it went cold. She kept humming to herself, quietly, the same lullaby. The one about the angel in the window. A week in, the detective handling the case sat down with us in a cafe and said, "If a child is not recovered quickly, it's usually not a soft ending." He said it like he'd practiced the line. I said nothing. I watched his pen make slow ticks on a form I couldn't read. 2 months in, we got a call about a coat. A sanitation worker had found it in a dumpster outside town near a train yard. Pink, fleece, with one sleeve torn. It might be hers, the detective said. Tiffany went to her knees beside the table and said it was. I didn't argue. I couldn't even look. We stayed in Romania almost 6 months. Every day bled into the next. We moved from hotels to a short-term rental. Volunteers kept printing flyers. The embassy filed formal notices. Search dogs were brought in and taken out. Someone thought maybe she had been trafficked. I couldn't hear the word without going numb. Eventually, the embassy arranged our return. Tiffany packed Mia's backpack with her favorite book and the silver medallion. We took it as carry-on. Back home, we stopped at a pharmacy on the way from the airport. Tiffany needed melatonin. I remember watching her walk down the sleep aid aisle like she was picking out cereal. Numb, hollowed out. For a while, I checked my email at 2 in the morning like it was part of my job. Leads came in, photos, tips from strangers. One time a man from Vermont sent us a photo of a girl busking outside a Walgreens. The angle was wrong, the eyes were wrong, but he meant well. They always did. I didn't delete the emails. I archived them. All of them. Time stopped being linear. It split. There was before, and there was after. People tried to be kind. Some gave speeches about God's plan. Others said, "You have to let go eventually." Tiffany kept Mia's shirts in the drawer. I folded them sometimes just to keep my hands moving. I don't know why I didn't pack them up. Maybe I thought she might walk back in and want them. In public, I stayed neutral, quiet. At work, I talked about steel tolerances and soil grades like I was still whole. At home, I sometimes stood in her doorway for no reason at all, like I was waiting for her shadow to reappear. She never did. I started going to bed with the TV on just to drown out the quiet. Tiffany barely spoke those first few years. She functioned. She moved through her day like a machine with a program burned into it. Wake up, get dressed, sit at the desk, type, blink, eat. But she wasn't there. Not really. Her reports got shorter, her voice softer. One afternoon I came home and found her staring at a crack in the paint on the living room wall like it was about to tell her something. I said her name 3 times before she looked up. She kept humming that angel song, the one she used to sing to Mia at bedtime. But now she hummed it into her palm, like she didn't want the sound to escape. Like if she let it drift out into the room, someone might take that from her too. I didn't know how to help her. I cooked. I paid bills. I did the dishes and bought groceries, and tried not to lose my temper every time someone said, "You have to move on." You think people mean well until they start mailing Christmas cards with their grandkids' faces plastered on them, big bold captions like "Meet our joy" or "Our little blessing." I stopped opening those envelopes. Still, I didn't hold it against them. They were lucky. We weren't. She didn't want to leave Seattle. Said if we moved, we might miss something. Some call, some sighting, some miracle. After 10 years, she said less. After 15, she stopped watching the news. 23 years after that street in Sibiu swallowed our daughter, Tiffany's heart just gave out. She was 55. No warnings, no symptoms. Just collapsed in the kitchen near the sink. I did what I was trained to do. Called the medics. Started compressions. Checked her airway. But it took them too long to get there, and when they finally did, it was already done. I sat on the kitchen floor afterward. I didn't cry. I just sat there with my back against the dishwasher, her hum still hanging in the air like smoke from a blown-out candle. The funeral was short. She didn't want a church, didn't believe in any of that by the end. I buried her with the scarf Mia once wrapped around her arm during a flu. It still had a small tear in the edge where she'd caught it on the corner of the banister. After that, I worked. That's all. Work was math. Structure, load paths, and code compliance. Nothing vague. Nothing you had to feel to solve. I kept going because sitting still felt like drowning. Hannah entered my life slow, like water soaking through a floorboard. Not all at once, just steady. She worked admin at the local college library. Divorced, grown sons, no fuss. She asked about an invoice once when I was doing a pro bono campus remodel. Then she asked about a lunch spot. Then we had coffee. It took months before I said anything real. She didn't try to fix me, didn't give speeches. She made soup. She folded my laundry without asking where the clothes came from or why there were boxes I hadn't opened in years. She could sit beside me for hours without saying a thing and never make the silence feel like a problem. Even when I started to talk, finally, slowly, she never flinched. I told her about Mia, about Sibiu, about Tiffany folding clothes she couldn't bear to give away. Hannah just nodded. "You carry it well for someone who never puts it down," she said once. I don't think I ever told her how much that sentence meant to me. A year later, we moved in together. Quietly. No announcements. We cleared out 2 bedrooms, donated 5 bags of old blankets, and made a shared calendar on the fridge. Her handwriting made the place feel real again. Some part of me still kept the porch light on, though. Not literally, but mentally. You live long enough with a hole in your life that size, you stop trying to fill it. You just leave space for it. I wasn't planning some dramatic rescue. I wasn't building theories or keeping an evidence board. I just couldn't bring myself to believe Mia was truly gone. I didn't keep a shrine, nothing dramatic. but I never got rid of the second medallion, the one we had made as a backup. It stayed in Tiffany's drawer, right-hand side, back corner. Still cold to the touch. Still perfect. There was one voicemail Tiffany left me I kept saved on my phone. It was from a grocery run. She hummed the Angel song between saying we need eggs and I think I forgot the peanut butter. That voicemail lived in 3 different backups. Every once in a while, late at night when Hannah was asleep and the house had that deep stillness only old places get, I'd play it and just listen. Not even to her words. Just the hum. The note she held in the middle. It felt like holding a talisman. Like if I kept that sound alive, some part of me would still be able to hear it. And maybe, just maybe, she'd remember. Once, Hannah caught me with the drawer open and the medallion in my hand. I didn't hear her walk in. I just froze. She didn't ask questions. She just kissed the top of my head and went to make tea. I wasn't hiding anything. I just didn't want to explain something you only understand if you've had a piece of your life ripped away and handed back as silence. People said I was lucky to find someone like Hannah at my age. I didn't argue. I just said, she lets the house breathe again. That was enough. We never decorated much. No grand designs. But the home stopped feeling like a mausoleum. Nights had kitchen sounds again. The faucet. The creak of the floor. The scrape of a fork in a bowl. All the little things that disappear when grief takes over. Still, I never touched Mia's room. The closet stayed closed. The bed stayed made. The picture of her with her palms on Tiffany's cheeks, still on the nightstand. Some habits you keep because they're what's left. Then, one night, while clearing out a drawer in the garage, I found a box of old mail. There was a flyer someone had sent from Europe years back. Some street performer newsletter, half in Romanian, half in broken English. One of the photos showed a girl in a yellow scarf, singing with her mouth wide open and eyes closed. It wasn't Mia. Not then. But something about the stance, the way she held her chin, the way her feet were braced like she knew the world might push back, stayed with me. I didn't mention it to Hannah. I just folded the page and slipped it into the drawer beside the medallion. Some part of me still believed the world might bring her back. By then I had followed the song across the square to the trailers behind the market. Her scarf flashed yellow in the shade. I kept my hands where she could see them. I just need to ask about that medallion, I said, steady, but not slow. The woman didn't blink. Her arms stayed around the girl's shoulders. I didn't reach forward or move any closer. She looked at me like someone who'd been trained to read faces for lies, and she was checking mine for cracks. She stepped between me and the girl, just one shift of her body, but full of meaning. She said something in Romanian to the boy behind her. I didn't catch the words, but his feet were already moving back toward the camp. "You with the police?" she asked. "No, not even close." Her eyes narrowed. She wasn't convinced. She looked me up and down, my boots, the jacket, the way I stood. I could feel her deciding what kind of man I was. "I'm a building consultant," I said. "I'm not here to make trouble." "You followed us?" she said. I heard her singing. I recognized the song. I paused, then added, "It's not a common tune." It was my wife's lullaby. She used to sing it to our daughter. That got her. I saw her breath catch in her throat just for a second. The girl peeked around her side, eyes wide. The medallion glinted under her chin. I took the one from my inner pocket. I didn't offer it forward. I just held it up at chest level, fingers loose, so she could see I wasn't making a move. The light caught the angel side. The engraving on the back, Mia P. September 3rd, faced my skin. The woman stepped closer. "I'm not here to hurt you," I said again, "or take anything. But I need to know where she got that necklace. I made 2 like it. That's one of them." The woman looked down at the girl. "Go back to the tent," she said in Romanian. The girl hesitated. "Go," she said again, softer. The The girl obeyed. Once we were alone, she folded her arms. "What's your name?" "Norman Patterson." Her expression shifted so fast it knocked the wind out of me. Her jaw clenched, like the name hit a place she didn't want anyone touching. "You're American?" she asked. "Yes." "From Seattle?" I nodded once. "Yes." She didn't speak again for a full 10 seconds. Then, in a voice that sounded scraped thin from years of disuse, she said, "I used to dream about that word, Seattle. Didn't know what it meant. Just remembered the sound. I didn't move. I didn't even shift my weight. I let her have the silence. "I have questions," she said, "but not here. Too many ears." "Fine," and I said, "I'm staying near the old city, hotel with a blue awning by the tram line." "Don't say it out loud," she said sharply. "Even a color's too much if someone hears." I nodded. "Come tomorrow," she said. 3 blocks north of this square. Yellow kiosk with graffiti. I'll be across the street. 11 o'clock. If you're not alone, I won't stop." "Understood." She turned and walked fast, her shoulders tight. I stayed where I was until she disappeared behind the trailers. My hands were shaking when I put the medallion back in my pocket. I didn't go back to the hotel right away. I walked 4 more blocks before hailing a cab, looping the long way around to make sure nobody was following me. It was habit more than paranoia. But even habit comes from somewhere. That night I called Hannah, told her exactly what happened, no pieces missing, no hedging. "You think it's her?" she asked, voice low. "I think it's impossible. But that necklace, Hannah." I remember the nick on the edge. Mia dropped it on tile in Santa Fe. It scratched right below the wing. "It's the same." She didn't answer for a second. Then she said, "You need me there." "I don't know what I need yet," I said. "But I might." "I'll start looking at flights," she said. "Text me the hotel address, and promise me something. Anything. You won't do this alone. Not again. Promise me." I didn't argue. "I promise." After we hung up, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because part of me already knew what tomorrow would show. Some part of me had always known I'd come back here. I just didn't expect it would be through a child's voice and a single held note. At 10:45 the next morning, I stood across the street from a yellow kiosk covered in spray paint. It sold cigarettes and boiled corn and didn't take card. She was there. Same woman. Hair up, scarf around her neck, sunglasses on. She was scanning everything: people, traffic, windows. A muscle in her jaw kept moving. I stepped into view. She didn't wave or nod, just walked past me once, brushed my arm with her coat, and said, "1 block west, left at the alley with the broken bricks." I followed. The alley curved behind a row of shuttered shops. There was a bench near a dumpster. She sat. I stood. "I don't know who you are," she said. "But that necklace, that name, you don't fake those." "I'm not faking anything." She looked up at me. Really looked. "I have a mole," she said. "Heart-shaped, left cheek. Your wife. She had one too, didn't she?" I couldn't speak. I nodded. "Did she ever call me Bird?" she asked. "Not often. Just when I was small." "Every day," I said. "She used to say you sang like one." The woman's shoulders dropped like someone had cut a string holding her up. "I don't know my name," she said, almost a whisper. "Not the real one. They call me Florica. But that's not mine." I sat beside her. "Mia," I said, "your name is Mia Patterson. You're my daughter." She let out a sound. Not a sob, not a laugh, something between. Then she covered her mouth with her hand. "I was 4, she said. I remember music. People pushing. I lost her hand. I looked for Red. I saw a bus. I thought she got on. I climbed in." Her voice cracked. I waited for her to follow, but the doors closed. She turned her face to me. I ended up at the end of the line. A man named Drago said I was alone, said he'd take care of me. I didn't know better. I believe you, I said. I don't need more than that. She pointed toward the direction of the camp. The girl. Her name is Zara. She's mine. She sings like air. She's the only reason I'm still me. I took out the second medallion again and put it in her hand. She looked at it like it might burn her. Then she ran her thumb over the edge. It's the same, she whispered. It's the same one. It's the other one, I said. We had two made. Tears came down her face without sound. We'll figure it out, I said. Whatever this is. We'll take it slow, but we're not letting go this time. She gripped the medallion in her fist and nodded once. She held the medallion like it was still warming in her mother's hand. People here call me Florica, she said. Her voice was low, not afraid, just calculated. Her eyes scanned the edge of the camp. But inside my head, I've always used another name. She didn't tell me what it was. Not then. She ran her thumb over the engraving, slow and precise. I couldn't read this when I first got it. I didn't even know it said letters. But I memorized the shapes. I used to trace them when I couldn't sleep. I didn't rush her. She was pulling things up from a well that had no bottom. You have to let people take their own time when they've been locked in their head that long. She said she remembered flashes, heat, noise, music. A lot of legs and shirts and shouting. She said she saw a bus with people crowding in. She thought her mother was already on it. She followed. I wasn't crying, she said. I was sure I was doing the right thing, that if I got on, she'd be waiting inside. She looked at me then, eyes sharp and dry. It was late. I remember that. The back door was open, no one checking, just people moving like a river, and once I got on, I couldn't get off. I didn't interrupt. I wanted her to say it in her own words. Drago found me at the end of the line. She said, he said I was abandoned. Said no one came looking. I was too small to argue. She looked past me, at nothing in particular. He says a lot of things. There was no hate in her voice, just a deep, cold detachment. I've heard men describe trauma with more warmth. Was he your... No, she cut in fast. Not blood. He calls it a family, but it's not. It's business and control, and no way out unless you're worth something. How long were you with them? She gave me a look like I was asking how long gravity had existed. I don't know, she said. Always. My first memory is someone showing me how to pick coins out of a fountain without falling in. I nodded. My throat felt dry. They figured out I could sing when I was 6, she said. Or maybe younger. I don't know. But once they saw it made people stop, made people drop bills. They leaned into it. Did they hurt you? Not the way people think, she said. Threats first, then hugs, then rewards if you hit your mark, food if the cup's full, silence if it's not. I didn't ask what else she'd seen. I didn't need to. She told me about a woman she called Mama, not her real mother, just the one assigned to her. This woman handled the clothes, the makeup, the schedule. She told her what to wear and how to smile. She called me Florica because she said my cheeks turned pink like flowers when I sang too hard. I didn't argue. But inside, I used to whisper another name to myself, over and over. She glanced at the medallion. I didn't know why it mattered. Just that it did. She said she met Damien when she was 16. He was 2 years older. One of Drago's runners, guys who drove the vans, fixed wires, handled cash pickups. He wasn't cruel, she said. Just didn't see me at all. Thought being quiet meant I didn't need anything. We didn't fight. We just weren't ever really real. Then came Zara. She didn't say the name with softness. She said it like a fact, but her mouth pulled tight around the edges, and her fingers curled around the medallion when she said it. She sings like breathing, she said. I didn't teach her. She just opened her mouth, and there it was. The angel song lived in my mouth my whole life, and I couldn't figure out why. I taught it to her when she was a baby. It made me feel safe. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, scrolled to the saved voicemail, hit play. Tiffany's voice came through the speaker, clear, gentle, tired in that way parents get after a long grocery trip. She listed apples, then bread, then a quiet hum, those same soft notes. That pause between win and Dow. Florica froze. Then she covered her mouth like I'd handed her a plate still hot from the oven. She used to sing like that, she whispered. I could never place where I knew it from. It's like it's been rattling around inside me, waiting to line up. I let the silence sit. If you're wrong, she said, voice steady now, I'll know by the morning. If you're right, she didn't finish the sentence. If I'm right? I asked. If you're right, she said, we'll need to be ghosts, or sooner, if the risk spikes. We agreed on a clinic in Cluj, small, cheap, private, no names, 2,750 Romanian lei in cash. A man with a sweat-stained collar took the swabs without asking questions. His hands shook when he counted the bills. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. The next morning, we sat in the same diner we'd passed earlier, just far enough from the camp to feel neutral. She ate nothing. I watched the street, eyes on every movement. Then she leaned in and said, there's something else. I waited. The boy you saw yesterday, the one who collects bills, he's part of Drago's second line. They watch, they flag, they learn which tourists have weak backs and fat wallets. Does he know about you? He suspects I'm slipping, she said. I've taken Zara farther away to sing lately, told him it's for better foot traffic, but really it's to scout exits. I nodded slowly. And the man who came with the lawyer to the first client meeting, she asked. Did he wear a carved ring on his middle finger? I paused. Yes, dark red stone, square edges. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a napkin with a sketch. Same ring, same design. They use those rings like tags, she said. Some wear it for status, others just to show they belong. The lawyer's part of it, or close enough to count. Later, I'd get confirmation from an NGO caseworker, a woman who spoke like she'd seen this 100 times. She showed me intake photos of other children recovered from camps across the country. 2 of them showed men with that same carved ring. One had a matching coat to the lawyer's driver. None of that was proof, but it meant the client, my client, and the camp were connected. Drago's business ran wider than I thought. We didn't speak for a long time after that. We just sat. She kept Zara's drawing pad in her lap and flipped through the pages with her thumb like she was counting time. I watched people pass by the glass. Every one of them felt like a possible threat. When we finally stood up to leave, she looked at me and said, if you're going to do something, you have to do it smart. They don't forgive. I looked her straight in the eye. Then we won't give them a reason to know, I said. Back at the hotel, Hannah sat on the edge of the bed with her hands tucked under her knees like she was trying to keep herself from floating off. I stood across from her, shoulders stiff, palms sweating. I told her everything, from the girl's voice near the fountain to the medallion, to the alley, to the name she remembered but hadn't spoken out loud. I told her about the clinic in Cluj, the camp, Drago, the rings, the risk. I didn't hedge or soften. For once, I didn't keep my face blank. When I stopped talking, Hannah let out a breath that sounded like she'd been holding it since I called. She didn't cry. She didn't ask if I was sure. What she said was this: I'm scared you'll replace me with what you lost. It hit like a nail to the sternum. No anger. Just a plain sentence from a woman who didn't deal in drama. She kept going. A daughter. A granddaughter. A house full of pictures with my name cropped off. I sat down next to her. You are my partner, I said. You got me vertical again when I didn't know how to stand. If they're ours, they're joining us, not erasing you. She didn't nod fast or tear up. She looked down at the floor, then back at me, slow and steady. "Then let's do it right," she said. "No cowboy moves. Paperwork, safe places, food, phones off. We do this clean or not at all." That's the thing about Hannah. She makes other people brave just by naming the plan. We moved quick. I called an attorney back in Seattle who once handled a visa issue for one of my engineers. I left 3 voicemails and 1 text, carefully worded. I didn't say kidnapping or trafficking. I wrote urgent family reunification matter, followed by the city, a number, and a list of documents I might need to move fast. While I waited, we booked a small apartment across the river. 2 rooms, cash-only rental, no ID check, just a borrowed name and a polite lie. I didn't ask who the manager thought we were. He handed over the keys and told us which hallway light was broken. I went to a corner store and bought 2 backpacks, a roll of duct tape, a bag of wet wipes, and a change of clothes for a 7-year-old girl who liked yellow. Hannah had written that last part on the notepad by the sink, like it was just a reminder. Something yellow. Size 6. The next morning, the plan was to ride quietly to the clinic, get the swabs, and go back to the apartment before noon. That was the plan. But the car showed up at 8:45, low to the ground, dusty, 2 men in front. It didn't follow close. Just enough to get noticed if you were looking for tails. I was. I always do. We cut across a side street and into a grocery lot. I let a delivery truck block their line of sight while we waited near the loading dock, engine off. When the truck pulled out, the car was gone. I'm not a hero, I just map exits. It's the same skill I use in buildings, routes, visibility, margins of safety. I never thought it would apply to survival in a city I didn't even plan to return to. At the clinic, the tech was young and sunburned. He didn't ask for names, just swabbed our cheeks, counted the 2,750 Romanian lei twice, and said the same line he probably said to everyone, 48 hours if the power stays on. We nodded and left. The NGO, one of the few that still had a functioning field team in Romania, scheduled the second test. That one would be by the book. Chain of custody, photo ID, legal names, travel consent, affidavits. The clinic test was for speed and peace of mind. The official test was for paperwork. We needed both. Back at the apartment, Hannah held the door open for Florica and Zara, like they were neighbors coming over for coffee. No drama, just normal. She even asked if they wanted tea. Florica blinked like she didn't understand the question. Zara nodded and said yes. We all sat in that cracked tile kitchen for 2 hours. I didn't push conversation. Hannah told a story about a library intern who shelved the entire sociology section backwards. Zara laughed. Florica smiled. That was more than I expected from either of them. Around 10 that night, I found something under the door. It was a business card, plain white, centered type, no logo, just one name stamped in clean block letters, D-R-A-G-O. Below that, a single line, family earns. I stared at it for 5 full seconds, took a photo with my phone, then flushed it down the toilet. He wanted us to know he was watching. Message received. Hannah was brushing her teeth when I walked back in. She didn't ask what I'd found. She just looked at my face and said, "What did he do?" "Left his name," I said. "That's all." She wiped her mouth with a towel and sat on the edge of the bed. "We still doing this?" she asked. I sat beside her. "Yes." She reached over, picked up my hand, and placed it on her thigh like it was a contract. "I meant what I said," I told her. "You're my partner. This doesn't push you aside." "I'll hold you to that," she said. "Good," I said. That night, we slept in shifts. I kept my shoes near the bed and the passports in a Ziploc bag taped under the sink. I didn't touch the medallion, not once, but I kept it zipped in my inner pocket like it was a compass. The walls of the apartment were thin. I could hear Zara breathing from the other room. The girl snored like a kitten, soft and uneven, like her lungs were still learning how to rest. Every exhale reminded me what we were risking. Every inhale reminded me why. By morning, the lawyer from Seattle had replied. He gave me a name inside the consulate. Someone who could move things without drawing flags. We'd need supporting documents, proof of relationship, medical confirmation, incident reports, birth details, case history. I already had most of it ready. I'd been preparing for something like this since the day I folded Mia's shirts into a box. I just didn't know what shape it would take. The NGO confirmed we were on their radar now. They gave us a burner phone, coded contact phrases, a list of fallback addresses in case things went loud. They'd had to move other families before. This wasn't new to them. We were told not to linger in one place. No patterns, no routine, but also no panic. Panic is what gets people noticed. That evening, Hannah made soup. Florica peeled carrots like she'd done it 100 times. Zara hummed while setting out spoons. It was the most dangerous day of our lives. It felt almost normal. We had it planned to the minute. Pick up at 11:40, right after the plaza crowd thinned, and before the watchers switched. Florica had timed everything to a rhythm she could count in her sleep. 15 minutes we're invisible, she said. 17 if the drummer shows up. She meant a street percussionist who always cut through the square early, loud, distracting. But that morning, things shifted. At 9:30, the NGO's burner phone buzzed with a short-coded message. Switch early. Risk elevated. Move now. We dropped everything. Florica adjusted Zara's scarf, handed her the little yellow microphone she used for amplification, and walked her straight into position in front of the fountain. The girl stood on a short crate and started singing like it was just another Thursday. Her voice carried clear over the crowd. Pure, practiced, magnetic. People slowed down to listen. That was the risk and the protection. She got through 2 songs. Bowed. Florica grabbed her before the bills hit the box. They moved clean and fast down the curb toward me. I was already in the van. I'd parked at an angle between a city delivery truck and an out-of-service kiosk. It blocked the square camera just enough to buy us 10 seconds. Zara was laughing. She thought it was a game. Hannah was in the back seat with a juice box already open. Hop in, sweetheart, she said. The girl climbed in like it was summer camp. Then the teenager spotted us, the same one who collected bills, scanned corners, stood with one foot always ready to run. His mouth opened and he yelled something sharp in Romani. Across the plaza, a man in a blue jacket stepped from a recessed doorway. Shaved head, square ring on his middle finger, same face from the lawyer's office, same cold eyes. Florica didn't hesitate. She slammed the side door, nodded at me once. I floored it, left again, down the ramp by the parking lot that's always half flooded, under the overpass where GPS always cuts out for 6 seconds. That was the point. If they chased, they'd lose us for just long enough to think they took a wrong turn. Zara asked if we were going to a party. Hannah said, "Kind of," and handed her a sheet of bright yellow stickers shaped like suns and clouds. We looked like a family on errands. That's what kept us off the radar. At the apartment, I didn't speak. I went straight to the table, pulled out a glasses case, opened it. Hannah took out scissors, cut the chain of Zara's medallion, and slid the pendant into the case like it was evidence. No fingerprints, no smudges. She buried it in a tea box marked chamomile. Normal is tactical. Normal keeps you breathing. I still had the twin medallion zipped in my inner coat pocket, pressed against my chest. I hadn't touched it since the first night. I didn't need to. 2 hours later, I met the Danube Heritage client in a glass-front cafe 2 blocks from the river. Clean windows, upholstered chairs, waiters who pretended not to notice things. He talked sight lines and terrace grading for 5 minutes. Then he set his phone flat on the table and said, "Family matters are best handled inside the family." He looked me dead in the eye like he expected me to flinch. I didn't. I sipped my espresso, wiped my mouth, and said, "I'll need a larger deposit to stay on this timeline. 42,000 euro wired same day. If not, I walk." He stared, long enough that I started counting in my head. At second 8, he smiled. "You don't bend, do you?" "I design foundations," I said. "I don't play anything." He agreed. Of course he did. Men like him don't see threats until the floor collapses. I never planned to pour that footing. Back at the apartment, the light over the stove flickered. I sat at the small table and logged a video statement to a Romanian child protection NGO my Seattle contact had found overnight. I spoke into the phone like I was making a will. "I am Norman Patterson. I am a U.S. citizen. I have verified identity documentation, medical and genetic evidence, and legal support. I am requesting humanitarian protection for my daughter and her minor child." You can tell a story into a phone and make it count. I told mine in one take. At 6 p.m., the building doorbell rang 6 times. Long, short. I froze. That's not a mistake. That's someone marking the door. The rhythm said, "I've been here before." We didn't answer. Didn't move. Hannah reached over and shut the kitchen light off with her elbow. We stayed silent. The hallway creaked once. Then it was quiet. Drago's crew thought they owned the building. We didn't give them proof. By sundown, we were in a rented sedan with a dented side panel and a full tank. I drove. Hannah mapped. Florica kept one hand on Zara's back the whole time, even while she slept. We took Route 1 north, slow, steady, 5 over the limit. I blinked my turn signal early at every merge. Every lane change came with 2 checks and a mirror glance. I don't believe in luck. I believe most losses happen in the small gaps. At a truck stop halfway to Cluj, we took turns in the bathroom. Florica wiped Zara's face with wet wipes and changed her shirt. Hannah paid cash for a bottle of water and a bag of ginger candy. Zara asked if we were going home. I said, "We're heading somewhere safe." She nodded like it was a better answer than yes. We reached the safe garage just before midnight. The space was underground, run by a man the NGO called Uncle, but whose real name I never learned. He opened the gate without a word, waved us into a second bay, and locked the door behind us. We slept in shifts. Blankets in the back seat, coats folded for pillows. Hannah lay against the passenger door with her hand on my thigh. I kept one foot planted on the floor. Zara slept like a stone, head against Florica's chest. She snored a little. That tiny, uneven rhythm. You hold those sounds in your chest. They push the air back in. 2 days later, the clinic called in the afternoon. The tech on the line spoke like he was reading a shipping update. Probability of paternity relationship, 99.97%. I sat down on the curb outside the garage. I didn't say anything for a full minute, just kept breathing, both fists pressed against my knees. That number didn't surprise me. I already knew. I just needed someone else to confirm it out loud. Florica didn't ask to hear the recording. She saw my face, nodded once, and walked to the back of the van. She cried one time, quiet, head turned toward the wall. Then she said, "We leave fast." No pause, no hesitation. She knew the rules. I followed her lead. The NGO moved quickly. One of their field agents had already flagged a clerk inside the consulate who liked clear folders and didn't talk too much. That's what we needed. No press, no fanfare, just a checklist and a signature. We submitted an affidavit from me, sworn and notarized, describing the events starting with the disappearance, up to the match. We added scanned copies of the translated police reports from Sibiu, dated, certified, time-stamped by 2 departments. On top of that, we included the DNA report from the official chain of custody test. 3 red stamps, 1 blue. Nothing handwritten, clean. The consulate issued temporary one-way travel papers under humanitarian parole. 1 for Mia Patterson, 1 for Zara Patterson. Each document had the same case number. It came with a foil strip on the bottom and a barcode no one explained. While Hannah and Florica packed, I drafted an email to the Danube Heritage lawyer from my business account. Subject line, next invoice routing request, Norman Patterson Design. In the body, I asked for confirmation of the project's financial wire path so I could submit the next round of service charges. The idea was to force him to reply to an official thread under corporate header with something traceable. He replied within the hour, casual, sent the account and branch details like he didn't smell smoke yet. Separately, I took the files. His reply, the business card photo, the video testimony, and the audio recordings from the hallway, and sent them to the Financial Crimes Unit address the consular clerk had written on a yellow sticky note and pressed into my hand. I included the NGO's case number and labeled the folder, Supporting Evidence, Child Recovery Matter. Hannah leaned over my shoulder as I hit send. "You think they'll do anything?" she asked. "I don't need a conviction," I said, "just friction." She asked me where the line was, what revenge looked like to me. I told her, "Justice is fine. Reversals are better." She said, "Then change the game entirely." So I did. I canceled the project the next morning, sent a formal notice to the client citing code violations, grading conflicts, and slope instability. I attached a 3-page structural memo, stamped and initialed, showing photos of illegal trenching and unauthorized grading on the southern edge of the site. That triggered an environmental review, which triggered a fine, which triggered a pause in site permits, not a death sentence, but a chokehold. That kind of paperwork doesn't go away fast. Later that week, the same consular clerk texted me a news link. No words, just the link. The headline was in Romanian. I had to run it through a translator. Tax police raid yields cash, duplicates, contraband at perimeter storage yard. The article said they found 3 vehicles with duplicate license plates, 2 lighting rigs used for pop-up festivals, and over €70,000 in mixed currency stored in weatherproof bins. No names. Just part of a broader investigation. Drago's name didn't print, but we knew. Per the plan, we flew home 3 days later. We left from Cluj, routed through Frankfurt, then straight into Seattle. No press, no escorts, just 4 people with travel letters and plastic sleeves, and 2 carry-ons packed to the weight limit. On the plane, Zara slept across Hannah's lap. She clutched a pencil in one hand and a menu in the other. She had drawn a yellow sun on the back of it. Hannah stroked her hair for hours. I didn't speak much on the flight. I kept my hand over my chest where the medallion rested inside my jacket pocket. Solid, cold, real. When we landed, the customs officer looked at our paperwork and nodded twice. He didn't ask questions. He scanned the barcodes, stamped the forms, and said, "Good to have you with us again." That was the moment it hit me. We weren't ghosts anymore. The deposit for the project never reached my account. I watched the bank dashboard every hour for a full day. Then I got a notice from the compliance team. The wire had been held pending a suspicious activity report, flagged under threat review, frozen for legal evaluation. That was the quietest payback I'll ever enjoy. No gloating, no confrontation. Just their money, locked behind a screen they couldn't crack. Back in Seattle, I drove us home from the airport while Hannah sat in the back with Zara and Florica. Zara wanted to see everything. "Are the trees always this big? Do all the cars get their own lanes?" she asked. Florica stayed quiet. Her eyes scanned everything like it was a movie she wasn't sure how to watch. When we got to the house, I carried the bags in. I turned on the kitchen light. I opened Tiffany's old drawer, right side, back corner, and pulled it open. I took out the glasses case, the one Hannah had packed the pendant into, the one Zara wore around her neck that day at the fountain. I placed it gently beside the twin that had waited there for 29 years. Then I said out loud, "We're all here now." No one was watching. No one had to be. Zara got into the neighborhood music school on her first try. The youth voice director sat us down and said her ear was clean, and I've never heard a better word in my life used to describe music. He meant she didn't just hit notes. She heard where they came from and where they were going. Some kids get trained into pitch. She came wired for it. Florica filled out the enrollment paperwork under the name Mia Patterson. She signs it that way now, Mia on the line, Florica in her rear view. She keeps the old name in a drawer, only brings it out when she has to answer for the life she didn't choose. She works afternoons at a cafe near the bus exchange. Early shift, apron and register. Weekends she sings 2 nights at a place on 45th with a busted neon sign and a regular crowd that tips in 20s. It's a small stage, but she owns it. The first time I saw her there, she held herself like she did back in that plaza in Sibiu. Feet planted, voice clear, heart guarded. Evenings, she started ESL classes at the community college. Then music theory. One week she came home with a textbook and a 3-ring binder. I watched her take it out of her bag like it weighed something more than paper. That binder did something to me that even the DNA test didn't. It said I'm here, and I'm not going back. We run our household tight. 3 numbers never change. Zara's pickup times, her lesson hours, and the day we call Tiffany's sister to swap family stories. That last one keeps Mia grounded and Zara curious. Hannah keeps our calendar, like she used to keep her library system. Disciplined, exact, color-coded. You want to feel safe? Watch a woman track dentist appointments, court date reviews, and youth choir recitals on one square. She could run an embassy with a dry erase board and a Sharpie. There was one bump, not major but loud enough to stick. At a PTA mixer, one of the other moms leaned in and asked me where Zara really came from. She had that fake casual tone, the one people use when they think they're clever. I said, she came from her mother's arms. She blinked like I slapped her, then walked away. That was the end of that conversation. Zara asked me once about the man who said, family is a cage. We were brushing our teeth side by side, her feet on the step stool, her face half covered in foam. I told her, some men confuse ownership with love. They think if they hold you close enough, you owe them everything. She spat into the sink, wiped her mouth, and said, we don't do that in this house. I said, no, we don't. One Saturday, I took Mia to the hardware store to buy light bulbs. We walked past the paint sample wall, those big spinning racks with all the color chips. She froze in front of them like they were birds. I turned to say something and saw her just standing there, fingers brushing across the purples and oranges like she didn't know what they were for. I've never picked a color before, she said. Not even a crayon. I said, take your time. She stood there 10 minutes, picked out a yellow called Sunrise Hush, and tucked it into her pocket. We had a small memorial picnic for Tiffany 2 weeks later. Mia planned it. Zara picked the spot, a quiet stretch near the lake with a single pine that leaned toward the water like it was listening. We brought sandwiches, a jar of iced tea, and a portable speaker. I played Tiffany's old voicemail, just the hum between groceries, that sound that lived in all of us now. Hannah slid her arm through mine and didn't let go. No one talked while the message played. That was the only silence that felt earned. Our nights now end with kitchen noise again. Soft things, a fork scraping a plate, a glass set in the sink, Zara's pencil whispering across her spelling worksheet. I don't say healing. That's a word people throw around when they're afraid to describe what survival really costs. I just wash the dishes, wipe the counter, and turn off the light. The medallion, the one Zara wore all those years, is still in the top drawer. It rests beside its twin, no polish, no box, just metal. Sometimes when the house is quiet and she's brushing her teeth before bed, Zara opens the drawer and lifts it out. Only in the house, she says every time, and I always answer, that's right. She wears it for 10 minutes, walking slow down the hall like she's testing the weight of something both old and still hers. Then she puts it back. We'd been home a while by then. I stopped checking shadows when I crossed the driveway. I still caught echoes sometimes. Street music played a certain way, the whisper of a business card sliding under a door. But they passed. Routine eats them, and routine was what held us steady. That night, Hannah made roast chicken the way she always does. Her method, not mine. Mia came in with a glass dish covered in foil, something thick and golden from the cafe kitchen. Learned it from a line cook who calls me maestro, she said. I told her, he's not wrong. Zara folded napkins into little crooked triangles and set them all the same direction. even though she got left and right mixed up sometimes. We didn't fix it. The table looked right to us. No phones, no music, just water glasses, a salad bowl, and the scrape of silverware. I liked the sound of Zara's chair legs dragging the floor. I didn't realize how much I missed stuff like that until I started hearing it again. After dinner, she asked if she could sing something she wrote with her music teacher. Her face was pink with nerves, but she stood up and folded her hands the way she'd seen Mia do. She said, "It's called Open Door. It's about not being stuck." She didn't look at any of us when she started. Voice a little shaky, high and small at first, then strong. She held the open for just a breath longer than expected. Same way Tiffany used to stretch window. I caught it, and in the same second, I saw Mia's eyes twitch toward mine. She'd heard it too. Zara kept singing, and by the second verse, she was looking right at us. It wasn't a long song, maybe a minute. But when she finished, no one clapped, no one moved. We sat in the kind of silence that makes space around itself. I said, "That's the best thing I've heard on a Tuesday." Mia blinked at me. "It's Thursday." We all laughed. Not a lot. Just enough to keep the tears from falling, though either would have worked. After the table was cleared and the dishes stacked, Mia asked me if I ever thought about going back. "Not to live," she said. "Just to look." I told her, I already did. In court documents, in floor plans, in tax filings. That place is black and white to me now. She didn't push for more, and I didn't give it. She didn't need the details about the deposit freeze or the lawyer who lost his license. It was enough to know the table flipped, and none of our plates slid off. Hannah and I rinsed dishes together. She handed me a spoon and said, "You kept your word." I said, "So did you." She gave me that look again, the same one she gave me in Bucharest, when she tucked her hands under her knees and braced herself for the storm. I wiped my hands on the dish towel and watched Mia pull Zara into her lap on the couch. They were looking at the sheet music, Zara asking about the high notes, and Mia circling them with her finger like it was a map. Before bed, I opened the top drawer in the hallway cabinet. The medallion was right where I left it. I took it out, let it rest cold in my palm, and said to the quiet house, "They're safe." It felt strange to say it out loud, but it also felt right. I turned off the kitchen light. As the room darkened, I passed Zara's door and saw it cracked open just a few inches, the way she always leaves it now, the way we let it stay. "Hey, can I ask you something before you scroll? If someone from your past suddenly came back into your life, would you let them in, or keep the door shut to protect what you've rebuilt? If you've got the hype feature, please tap it now. It helps this story reach more people who might need it. Don't forget to like and subscribe too. It's a small click, but it means everything on our side. And leave a comment, even if it's just good story or your take on what you would have done. Love you guys."
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.